Welcome to the Chef My Life podcast. I am here with my friend, Mr. Henry Hunter. He is the founder of Baking Great Bread at Home, a Facebook group. He is also the author of Sourdough for the Rest of Us.
How's it going?
Great. Thanks for being part of the first podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to it.
You already are deeply involved in a lot of the things that I do and the things that you do. So it's only fitting that we would podcast together for this very first time.
Collaborators.
Absolutely. We got introduced by a mutual friend, but
That's right.
You encouraged me to join the group, and I joined the group, quickly became part of the group that people were talking about and talking to.
Yeah, that seems like a lifetime ago. I remember when we were introduced, and I was so glad to meet someone who had some enthusiasm about the same things that I was interested in. It's one thing to have all these people in the group who have similar interests, but it's different when I could actually work with someone who is passionate about what they do.
Yeah, that's a big part of what attracted me to furthering our friendship too, was that I could tell that we're kind of like cut from the same cloth, as they say. We have some similarities in our personalities and our passion for doing what we do. One of those passions is helping other people. That's
right. My dad told me a long time ago that if you help enough other people get what they want, then yours will take care of itself. And I've really taken that to heart. Bread's been very good to me. So whatever I can give back now, I'm obligated and happy to.
That's great advice. It's words to live by for sure. Yeah, I've found the same in my own life. You know, the more I give back, the more I get, really. And I get a lot out of it personally, you know, those warm fuzzies.
Yeah, that's one of the first things we worked on was benevolent bakers.
Yep. Founded it together and started giving away bread.
That's right. And helped some people.
Not only did we help some people, but we helped some other people get involved, and they started giving away bread and serving their communities, and it just kind of took off. And now we have bakers in 3 countries? Yeah, we've got Canada, US, and Mexico.
Well, I tell you, any time you give a baker an opportunity to bake, they usually take it. You know, we can only have so much in our freezers. You can only eat so much. Give me an excuse, and I'll bake.
Yes, absolutely. It's a passion that a lot of people have, and you know, I'm sure people think we're crazy, right? They probably look at us and like, why are they the crazy bread people? What are they doing? Why are they spending all this time baking bread? But then give them a taste.
What are you doing? How do you do this? All the time. So, but you know, I was talking to a friend of mine today who is into gardening, and he wants to do something similar to what we're doing with gardening, start a Facebook community and spread the wealth and the knowledge. And when I told him what our mission was, you know, you could see the enthusiasm kind of drain. He's like, so how do you make all this money? I was like, what money are you talking about?
Yeah, what money?
You obviously have the wrong idea. It's not about money. He says, well,
no.
You know, how do you find that many people interested in baking bread? I said, dude, we're only a slither of the bread baking world.
How many members do we have currently?
We have over 37,000, but we're a private group, and that's what separates us. We probably turn away 52% of those who apply for membership. And the next question is, well, why? And I would rather have a group that is curated, that, you know, everybody in the group is either a baker, an aspiring baker, shows some interest in baking. If you're 16 years old and you're doing TikTok girl dances, you're not, you know, that's not who we're targeting, but if you want to bake, we'll teach you.
Yeah.
So we don't have any of the drama. We don't have any of the problems you see in other groups, and that's because of how strict we are with our membership. That's one thing I'm very proud of. We don't have any of those problems.
Yeah, and a lot of that is attributed to the team. The admin team is fantastic, and they're very diligent about making sure that we don't have to deal with bots and spam and people that are just off their rockers.
Right. And most people, I don't think, realize what goes on behind the scenes of a Facebook group. Generally, a Facebook group is where you get together and people with similar interests and you post pictures of your whatever it is you're working on or you're proud of.
Right.
And if you're not directing it, then who knows where you're going to end up. And that's where the admin team and what we call the bread squad comes in. It's me, and I have 2 department heads, I like to call them. And I'll tell you a secret. The way we run things is based on Star Trek. Did you know that?
Beat me up, buddy.
It's the structure that I grew up with. So anyway, we have 2 what I call department heads. One's in charge of the group moderators, who are the ones approving all the applications, making sure every member is touched and no question goes unanswered. Then we have the group experts, who have a specialty in different aspects of bread baking. Some are expert in yeasted breads, like you. And then we have some that are experts in croissants, and others who are sourdough experts and people who are with general knowledge. And if one of the moderators comes across a question or a situation that's difficult or complicated, they'll make sure that it gets into the group expert inbox.
Yeah, I've definitely responded to some of those calls, especially for yeasted stuff.
Yeah, and we all pitch in wherever we can. Everybody kind of pitches in where they can. And, and that's about 21 of us. Some groups are much bigger because they're open. They take just about anybody who wants to come in. And they seem to do it with 2, 3 staff completely. And we don't do that. We've got too much going on.
Yeah, I'm an admin of a group that's like that, where there are 3 of us, but 2 of us do most of the work. Unfortunately, we're not able to do the same things that you're able to do in baking great bread at home because we are limited. I mean, we're both busy. We both have lives. We both have families. And one of our admins was one of the founders. She's still an admin, but she's not active because she had to go take a job and she's busy.
The life outside of Facebook?
Yeah, go figure, right? I actually spend more of my time on Instagram than I do on Facebook, but when I am on Facebook, I'll tell you that I spend probably 75% of my time on Facebook in the group because it's a great place to be. It's a lot of fun, and I like all the people, and I like helping people, and that's an opportunity to do that. Pretty much every day I have the opportunity to help somebody in the group.
One of the ways I approach this group as an administrator comes from my years of being in advertising and marketing in the CBS and Fox. I think that if people have 30 minutes, an hour that they're going to spend online, then I want to give them a reason to spend it with us. Whether they've got to bake today, whether they're baking tomorrow or not, I want to create an environment that is inviting, that attracts people to spend some time with us, which is why we do our challenges every month, and we do word of the day, and we've got so many little things, the blog, so many things going on.
It's not easy, and you don't accomplish nearly the breadth of what you guys accomplish. Well, what we accomplish, because I'm part of the team too.
You're part of it.
It works. Your theory works because, I just said I probably spend 75% of the time that I spend on Facebook inside that group. So it works.
We plan the whole year out. So we know
Yep.
that in February it's going to be around Valentine's Day. In March,
Right.
you're going to have St. Patty's Day. Christmas, you have that. Halloween, and there are reasons and to bake and breads to bake that are specific to each month. And when that doesn't happen, we have a curriculum or a syllabus, as it were, for people to go from the beginning of the year. By the time they make it to the end of the year, they've learned something. That's what we're about. Is
Yeah,
learning.
and let's talk about that because what's this month's challenge? To preface it, the challenge is a set of recipes or styles that we're supposed to follow and try out recipes in that style. And then you have the hashtag, and then once you've used your hashtag, you're hoping that you are drawn as the winner of the challenge and you'll win some sort of bread centric prize. So just tell us about this month.
Well, this, what we try to do is give away something as often as possible. Almost every month we do a giveaway just to create some excitement and, reason for people to sort of compete, not against each other, but compete. This month is breads around the world. So week 1, we have pita bread and naan and maybe an Italian focaccia. Week 2, we'll have challah and something else. And the thing is that we do recipes for each of those breads. So if you come to the challenge and you think, I don't know how to make a naan, this is your opportunity to learn. The recipe is right there. Tested, proven. This is your opportunity to bake something outside your comfort zone. And for this month, if you use the hashtag cultural in all your posts that have anything to do with the challenge, it allows me to go through at the end of the month and search for those hashtags, which then gives me the pool of people who participated. And then we use Google random number generator and we pick a winner. And this month we've partnered with Sourhouse. They're a fairly new company to most bakers.
That's a pretty exciting device.
Oh, they've got a couple of exciting devices. They've got the one that we're giving away this month is about $132 value. It's called the Goalie. It's because it keeps your sourdough in the Goldilocks zone, right where it's happiest. So there's a puck that sits on the counter, and it comes with a beautiful jar that your starter's in with little indicators as to how much it's risen. So no rubber bands are needed. And there's a little LED on the bottom of it that if it's yellow, that means it's not warm enough. And when it gets warm enough, it'll turn green. And then if it's too hot, it'll be red. And it's a nice, pretty dome over the top. Because a lot of people, when they're trying to keep their sourdough starters warm, they'll do things like put it in the oven with the light on.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many baked sourdough starters I've seen. You forget it's in there.
Yes,
People forget it's in there.
Or your spouse goes and preheats the oven.
Exactly. And so, there's a lot of ways of keeping your starter at the right temperature. But this is something that it's attractive, it's functional, and it looks good on your counter. And you want to leave it on your counter because it complements your kitchen.
It is very attractive. It looks really cool. It's like a piece of modern art almost. It looks like a 70s terrarium.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, so then they have a sourdough bed, which is where your dough proofs, and it's big enough that you can do coil folds in it, keeps it at the right temperature. And we partner with other companies like Wire Monkey, who is the leader in producing bread lambs, and Brød Taylor, who makes fantastic, beautiful bread baking appliances. And if you've ever watched any of the videos I've done with my big wooden beechwood bowl, which is hand carved, that's Holland Bowl Mill. And then there are others, but those are the principal ones we deal with mostly. People are glad to get their hands on that.
When I was practicing my bake-along video, I wished that I had one of those bowls like you have from Holland I mean, it's such a cool thing to have. It's like an heirloom thing.
It'll last longer than I will. And one of these
Yeah.
days, my kids are going to say to my grandchildren, you see that bowl up there? Your granddad was a baker, and that's what he made bread in. You work hard, you deserve something that represents your craft. And that's one of the things that I would spend money on and keep it around the house. It's gorgeous. Handcrafted, heirloom quality.
Any of your kids have interest in baking bread?
Of course not.
Really? Not at
Of
all?
course not.
Wow.
You know, here's the thing. When I'm dead and gone and they smell fresh baked bread, because olfactory senses are very strong,
Yeah.
they will remember their dad. That'll be the first thing. They'll see me when they smell bread. My daughter Peyton has some interest, and I'm starting to teach her a little. But,
Yeah.
you know, they're just out of college, and one's been getting his post-grad. They don't have time. Right now, that's not what
Right.
it is. But the fundamentals are there. They know what the language is. It'll come.
Yeah, that's when I started baking, was in college years, because I had an apartment. Instead of having a dorm room, I had an apartment, which was, I don't know, like quarter of a mile from the school. And so I was like, I'm going to learn all the things in this cookbook. You know, I had this, what is it? It's like the cooking encyclopedia or something. And
Love it.
I bought it at a big box bookstore on the clearance rack. Anyway, I just started going through it. I was like, oh, I want to know how to make that. Oh, I want to learn how to make that. So I just kind of went through the book and started picking out the things that I wanted to learn. And several of those things are things that I just still love to make, like 25 years later today. And bread is one of them.
Is that how you got your interest in cooking, Chef Dave Palmer?
Yes, it is. I used to experiment with the recipes and things and then try them out on my college buddies. And they nicknamed me Chef Boyard Dave.
Oh, gosh, that's a good one.
It's very fitting for us college guys, you know, because we probably were eating Chef Boyardee occasionally, at least.
Yeah.
But they would come over and I would cook and I'd say, all right, try this. Tell me what you think, you know, and they'd give me some feedback. And they were honest.
They were hungry.
Well, they said to me, they confessed to me, they're like, Dave, you cook better than our moms. I was like, oh, don't tell her that. Don't tell her that. Please don't tell her that. And it got to the point where they would say, oh, hey, will you make us this? And I'm like, well, I don't have this, this, and this. They're like, all right, we're going to the grocery store. And they'd go to the grocery store and pick up the ingredients that I was missing and show up with that and some beer. And we'd drink the beer, play video games. I would cook and we'd all eat together. It was like a great little community that we had going on there.
Did I tell you about a month or so ago? It was a knock at my door, and I opened the door, and there's a bag tied to my door handle. Nobody's there. So I'm thinking, isn't this supposed to be on fire, you know, where I have to stomp on it kind of thing? Well, anyway, inside the bag are bananas, a box of vanilla wafers, and butter, and a thing of whipped cream. You get it?
Yeah.
And a note.
That wasn't that. I admit it. I'm sorry. I really wanted a banana pudding and I didn't want to make it, so I thought, Henry will make it.
I'll make a really pretty banana pudding.
I bet you do. This is a lie. I don't live anywhere near Henry.
No, you don't. You don't live anywhere near me. You're in a different time zone. But anyway, that's how they wrote me into doing stuff now. Because I no longer bake anything for sales. I don't sell anything. So if they want to get on the agenda, they tie it to the door.
Nice.
And leave. I don't get any more joy out of anything other than I do when I see someone enjoying something I make.
It's the same thing. Like I said, we're cut from the same cloth. Food is my love language. That's what I always say. I mean, you literally just said exactly what I mean by that. I get so much joy sharing my food with others and seeing them enjoy it.
Yeah, now I understand why mom or my grandmother would put food on the table and stand back with her arms crossed looking at everybody because she was enjoying how we were receiving it. And I get it now. Grandma, come sit down. I'm good. because that was her nourishment.
Mm.
But I tell people, especially young bakers, who say, "Well, I can cook." Well, cooking and baking are two different things.
They are.
Cooking is a pinch of this and a dash of that and a little bit of this and my secret ingredient over here. Baking's not like that at all. Baking is a science.
Yeah.
If I say 500 grams of flour, you can't get fancy and go, I'm going to do 500 and keep the ratios.
Not if you want to have the same result.
No, you can't. Which I like. My OCD nature likes the structure of baking.
Yeah, I'm a rarity. I like both. And most people are one or the other, at least heavily weighted one or the other. But yeah, I cook every day and enjoy it just as much as baking. And I like the exactness and the science of the bread baking. I like that aspect of that a lot.
You weigh your ingredients, don't you?
I do. Well, okay. I do a hybrid. I weigh some ingredients. I weigh the flour always. Then like a yeast spoon, which is 2 1/4 teaspoons, which is the same amount that's in a little packet.
7 grams.
Yeah, 7 grams. And I mean, and I've even tried it out. I was like, okay, well, let's just see if this is really 7 grams. And yeah, I pour it in there, and sure enough, it is 7 grams. I'm like, okay, well, then I can rely on this, right? Because it's an exact measurement.
Well, yeah, I sit there and I'll pour 500 grams of flour in the bowl, and it'll be 506 grams, and I'll pinch it out until it's.
I do too. I do too.
That's nuts.
It's not, because you get a consistent result because you are exact.
And if you ever want to repeat, if you get lucky enough through experience that you make something gorgeous and delicious, and you're going to make that again, you have to know what you did to begin with. Yep. We had a member the other day who insisted that my grandmother baked with cups and spoons, and my mother baked with cups and spoons, and it always tasted good. And that's true. My grandmother used to have to build a fire in the stove to heat up the water to make a cup of coffee. And it was delicious. You could do either. I'm not saying don't do one or the other.
And you can be consistent with the other measurements. You can be consistent if you know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing. Now, I did an experiment with 3 of my kids years ago. I asked each of them to bring me a cup of flour. Go in the kitchen, give me a cup of flour. You can do it. You can scoop the flour in. You can dip the cup in the flour if you want. You can scrape off the top. Just bring me back a cup of flour. Mm-hmm. And they each did it, and we weighed it. And the difference in weight was about 50 grams.
Oh.
So if you're baking something that takes 6 cups of flour, then you're talking about 150 gram difference than the recipe calls for.
That makes a big difference, because that's like half a cup.
Yeah, and your hydrations are off, and it's never going to be the same. You don't know how to adjust to make it the same or better. You can't do it.
Right.
It's a pet peeve of mine. I'm sorry.
Hey, well, actually, this is an excellent segue, because I have a list of what I'm calling my essential bread making tools or equipment. And so I want you to just elaborate on it, and just give your feedback about what you think of my essentials. Okay. So for just bread making, I'm talking about just like sandwich bread. Okay. Sticking with the basics. You need a digital scale.
Absolutely. First thing.
That's why it's number 1. You need good bread pans that are good quality. Like, they're heavy enough and they have a good coating. I love USA Pan. They have that, they call it AmeriCoat. It's silicone. And they are aluminized steel. So they're very good conductors of heat and they stay consistent. I found them through King Arthur. They were branding King Arthur's pans and I was like, oh, these are USA pan, aren't they? And sure enough, that's exactly where they came from.
Did you know that the color of your pan makes a difference?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I used to have a dark pan. That thing would burn my food every time. It drove me crazy. I was like, this is the worst pan I've ever used. And I probably could have learned how to use it, you know.
Yeah.
But I hated that thing because it was that dark colored pan just for whatever reason. Well, I guess the silver colors, they reflect the heat, right? So
Yeah.
they don't absorb it all.
And we had someone just a couple of weeks ago in the group. She was baking 2 loaves at a time. One was a dark pan and the other was like light silverish color. And
Yeah.
they always turned out differently. She says, I'm doing the same thing and I'm the same temperature, the same oven.
So having consistent bread pans, whatever kind you choose, is very important. My number 3, and I should have made this probably number 2, but it doesn't matter. Instant rate thermometer. Gotta have it.
Yes. How else do you know? You hear people say, tap it on the bottom. It should sound like a drum. You tap a 500-degree piece of bread on the bottom. Tell me what it sounds like. So if you bake it to 200 degrees, exactly. If you're baking it just about any bread, you get to 200 to 210 degrees internal temperature.
You said 200, 210. That's where you aim for.
Rarely do I get up above 200. 200. If I'm at 200, I'm good.
About the same, like 190 to 200. That's where I try to land. If I could pull it at 190, I'm actually pretty happy because for like sandwich bread, it comes out much softer and it has a little more moisture. Where when you're doing sourdough, you have to let it get a little more done or it'll be gummy.
You got to make all that moisture out of it.
Yeah. So number 4 are airtight containers. I use Cambro containers because I learned about them in the restaurant industry as being an excellent way to keep food safe. And they sell big containers. I use 6-liter containers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then I have a bunch of them. They nest inside each other because they're all the same size.
Right. And you haven't mentioned my favorite yet, but I'll see if it's on your list.
Okay, we'll see. All right. You got to have mixing bowls and like tea towels. Do you use tea towels? I do all the time.
I do all the time. I mean, especially if you're making something like a challah and you've got to divide it into multiple pieces and make sure there's the same weight and you can only work on one at a time, you've got to have something you can throw over it. You got to have tea towels.
That's right. Yeah, I use it. I use them mostly for the second proof. First proof I do inside of a Cambro airtight container. And then the second proof, it's in the pan, so you can't do that. I can put the whole thing in a Cambro, but that'd be silly. Mm-hmm. Not when you can just throw a tea towel over the top and it'll do just fine. Right. All right. Let's see. Cooling racks.
Yeah.
I don't underestimate the power of the cooling rack. It can change the consistency of your crust and, keep you from ending up with a soggy bottom, basically.
Most people don't realize how important it is to have airflow under the bread. Otherwise, you're steaming it.
Yes, absolutely. And then I like the USA pan, again, cooling racks, because they are also bakeable. So if you want to use your oven like an air fryer, you can put the food on a cooling rack, and then you'll have that airflow, like you just said, blowing around the food. So dual purpose. I don't like things that only have one purpose. So if I can get an extra purpose out of something, I'm going to do that. And number 7, last but not least, an offset bread knife.
Like a serrated edge knife?
Yes, but offset. So the handle is up above and then the blades. Yeah, I have one of those.
I don't. I have my knives are Steinbruch and they're nice, but no offset one yet.
All right. Well,
I've got the. What do you think of those old bread? It's like a bread saw, a band.
I've seen those and it seems awkward.
I have two of them.
Oh, well, so you're trying to give me one?
Yeah, you can have one.
No, thank you.
I just don't get it. I don't get it because it's like a bandsaw. For people who don't know, it's got a handle and it has an arched wooden back to it, and then there's a bandsaw blade. So when you're cutting your bread, the piece you've cut is between the saw and the backside of your handle.
That's what I don't get.
Flip it out. I don't get that. I remember, I can imagine it back in the 30s or, early days, but I don't see it.
I will get you an offset bread knife for your birthday. How's that?
And I'll just give you one of these.
Oh, all right. Something for me to hang on the wall and never use.
That's where mine is.
All right.
Hanging on the wall.
What am I missing?
A Danish whisk.
Oh, I do have one of those.
Have you ever used one?
I did, just because like when I first started trying sourdough, I was like, everybody uses these, so I better have one, right? So I bought one. I think I've used it like twice, 3 times maybe. I use a mixer.
For sourdough, particularly, in my process, you do an initial mix, which goes before the fermentolise. Most people know what an autolyse is. The fermentolise is where you add the starter, flour, and water at the same time. So you're starting the fermentation process a little bit early. But that can get really sticky. Yeah. So if you're using a dough whisk or a Danish whisk, it has a big round top to it with some swirlies going on inside. But the problem with those is that if it's heavy dough, and if you're heavy-handed like I am, that thing pulls out and gets stuck in your dough. I must have gone through 6 before I found Brød Taylor's. Their steel goes all the way through the handle, so it is not coming out. And the handle is ergonomically designed, so it gives a little bit when you're squeezing it. Because I'm doing this, and to clean up, you just rub your finger around it, and it's done. You can use it to mix eggs or meatloaf, or it's got so many different uses. I love mine.
So I have like a nice to have list also, and that I'm going to go through those quickly, and you can tell me what I'm missing. All right. Bench scraper, bowl scrapers, dope, the silicone soap thing for scrubbing the dough out of your fingernail beds and stuff like that.
You've got those, and I want one of those. Yeah, those are nice.
Well, I have 2, so I'll hook you up when I come to see you.
And I'll send you this knife.
You don't have to send it to me. I'll pick it up when I visit you in town.
Okay.
Gel Pro mat. I don't know if you know what that is. That's an anti-fatigue mat. You put it in front of your workstation and stand on it, and it takes the pain away of standing there for a really long time. Because, when you're baking, a lot of times you're standing there for like an hour sometimes, and your back starts hurting and your knees start hurting. Yep. So awesome. Those ModKitchn bread bags. I know you have some of those.
Yes.
Yeah, I love those.
And the thing about you can freeze in these.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's easily washed out, so it comes apart like that.
Uh-huh.
And then it has a little zipper, and I've got some bread in it as we speak. Some cheddar and basil. Yeah, these things are nice.
Oh, I saw that the other day when you posted that. That looks so good. Impressive.
That's pretty.
You ever done bread in a food processor?
I've never done bread in a food processor.
Oh man, it's like the fastest single loaf of bread you can possibly make if you make it in the food processor. It's so fast. It's incredible. I'm gonna make a video on it, and you're gonna be like, "What the heck?" It comes together so fast because that dough blade's spinning just like super fast, And man, it just comes together. It's awesome for making like a quick, like if you want to make pizza crust or something like that really fast, it's super fast. And then the other thing, which we definitely have, is a stand mixer, but not the tilt head a bowl lift stand mixer.
Yes. Right. That's the
If
kind
you've ever had a
that I
tilt
have.
head do the dance off the counter.
Oh, yeah. And after a few uses, you have to put the nickel in the bottom of your bowl to make sure that
Yeah,
the blade is adjusted to the right height. And then have you
right.
ever had the head just do like
Yep.
this on you as you're mixing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
bread dough is so heavy. A tilt head just is not made for doing bread dough. You can do it, but it's not
That's
advisable.
for, yeah, I make
Yeah,
cookies with it.
or yeah, cakes and things like that. I actually broke one of my dough hooks in my old tilt head.
How?
I was making bread. I was like making 3 loaves at a time or something ridiculous like that in this little tiny 5-quart tilt head.
Oh, no. No, you
Or
can't
it's
do
not
that.
even, I don't even think it's 5 quart. I think it was like 4.5 or something like that. Anyway, it did not work out very well. And I was embarrassed that I broke the dough hook. And then the bowl lift one went on sale and it's all metal construction. The motor is all metal. And I was like, oh, that's what I need because I'm, notorious for overloading machinery.
Yeah, I have two. I have two bowl lift KitchenAids. Bowl
Yeah.
lift stand KitchenAid 600 Pro.
Okay.
But the most embarrassing thing I've had happen with my stand mixer is trying to time the what is it called? The planetary movement of the head as it goes around
Yeah.
your dough to break down the
Oh,
sides.
yes.
You ever do that? You wait
Yes.
for it? Okay, 1, 2, and scrape, and I'm doing it with a Danish whisk.
Oh,
So if it gets
no.
caught up in there, it's going to
Yeah.
snatch it out of my hand. And it did.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I couldn't turn that thing off fast enough. So there's a reason they
Hey,
say don't stick anything in there because
yeah.
it's going to be disastrous.
Yeah, Henry, I got a hot tip for you. Ready?
What's
You
that?
can turn off your stand mixer before you scrape.
Someone said that. I'm also one of those guys that for some reason I get hypnotized by the
Yeah.
stand mixer. I have learned so much about dough behavior in a stand mixer that
Yeah, me
we've
too.
got to do something on that. Because
Yeah.
for a while, it looks like nothing's going to happen. It's never
Yep.
going to get that little piece.
It's like watching the screensaver on the DVD player. Never gonna hit the
Yeah.
corner.
It's never going to hit it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a lot that can be taught there. How
For
to
sure.
add butter, when to add butter. You don't want the whole dough slick and sliding around in the bowl.
No, no. And if it calls for a half a stick of butter, you can't put it all in at once. You got to put it in
Not at one
little
time.
slices at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference
Yeah.
between softened butter and melted butter.
Oh, yes, there is. Yep, yep, yep. So now that we're giving away the hot tips, let's talk about sourdough for the rest of us. Your new book that you just put out, earlier this week, right?
A week ago.
Was it a week? Okay. Yeah, and so just tell us about it because it's intriguing. I read it. I was privy to see it early. What did I tell you? It was like you can quote me. It's
Don't
okay.
touch it. Don't touch it. It's the best one you've done.
That's exactly it.
That meant a lot to me. I was like, thank God, because
Because you know
notorious.
I'll come up with some sort of you got to fix this or this is not quite right or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
And I
You
know
were
you
that.
appreciate that. I know you
I
appreciate
do appreciate
that,
it. Well, the way that came about, and I struggled for a week on whether to even call it a book because it's only 47 pages long,
Right.
something like that. So I
Yep.
am answering a question from a member. I can't remember the question, but I'm answering her question, typing, and I thought this would make a good blog post. More people could benefit from hearing about this. So let's just turn this into a blog post where I have more room to expand and talk about it. And I'm starting to do that. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, well, you know what? They would understand that better if they knew this. So I go and give it some background and history. And the next thing I know, 3:00 in the morning one night, I've got a book. It's a book. And it turns out that it is everything you need to know about sourdough to be successful as a baker. But people hear all these tips on YouTube, and here's how you do it over on Instagram, and you've got to do it this way. What most people do is they'll take a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and they'll mix it together, and they'll never see those people again.
Right.
And they come to us and go, why is my bread not working?
Hmm.
So I've always said, bread has been around for 16,000 years.
Yeah.
If it were difficult, we'd all be dead. Imagine.
You're right.
Difficult.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not hard, and it's just not. So my way is not.
It doesn't have to be hard. I think that's
Exactly.
that's a point of clarity there. It doesn't have to be hard, and that's what the book is all about, really. People overcomplicate it so much. And I was talking to somebody, I'm not going to name drop, but I was talking to somebody who is like an expert in sourdough and all things baking, really. And he said, people make up these complicated processes so they stand out and so they can sell books because their way is special.
And I'm giving mine away because I believe that
Even better.
that bread belongs to everybody.
It
The
does.
things I write down about my baking process, I'm not inventing. These are processes that someone in Tanzania after the Ice Age was probably using. I can't take credit for that. So I know what works for me. And if you do exactly what I do, then it'll work for you. And you can deviate from that. And you sit there and you look at these beautiful images of bread on Instagram and you think, I can never do that.
And what did I say? You have illustrations instead of photos in there.
Yes.
Makes the most sense I've ever seen in a book about baking. Because what happens when you see that perfect bread, you're going to compare it to your own, and it might not even be real.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's one of the reasons I did not use photographs in this book. Because it's not about look how pretty my bread is. It's about how can I communicate this information to you so that you can feed your family.
Exactly.
And people have different schedules. If you've got 4 kids and you've got baseball, soccer, gymnastics, and dance and work and all of that, but you want to bake bread, how can you fit it into your schedule? So I've got a schedule for the night owl. I've got a schedule for the weekend warrior, schedule for somebody who's, free as a bird and can do all they want. And we just break it down as, what you need to do when and how you can incorporate that into your schedule, when to feed your sourdough starter, whether to leave it on the counter or use the refrigerator, all of that. Just making it simple.
And I appreciate that so much. And I know other people are going to once they read the book. And if you are at even the least bit interested in trying out sourdough or finding out what it's about, download the book. It's free.
Yes.
Now you can drop Henry a tip. You can drop him a tip. Buy you a cup of flour, right?
Yes. Now, I struggle with money as it relates to what I do in the group and that sort of thing. Because we have a reputation for giving away our knowledge, giving away our time, giving away our recipes. And I'm proud of that. And I don't want to stand there with my hat in my hand asking for money, because that's not what we do. However, in order to get the resources that we provide, we've got to pay for the Gamma subscription, the CapCut subscription, all of these little $20 a month and $50 a month subscriptions kind of add up.
Oh,
And
heck
this
yeah.
pays for that. This, all the money
Yeah.
goes right back into making better resources for our bakers.
And I applaud you, sir. That's very generous. And there are people that are downloading this book that are also very generous, and they have
Yes.
supported, even though they could download it for free. They've thrown in $5, $10. I don't know how much you've gotten
$20.
out of it. $20. Wow. So
Yeah, I've had several $20 tips, and I think, thank you, but you don't have to do that.
but you know what? Your time is worth that any day of the week, because you provided a resource that anybody can use, and they can use it to, like you said, feed their family. So it's worth $20 any day of the week. I mean, I've spent more than $20 on a book, that
Yeah.
probably doesn't teach me as much.
How I measure success with this book is if you read some of the testimonials that come back and say, this is what I wish I knew 20 years ago. This is the kind of stuff I wish I knew when I was starting out. Or it answered
People are
all
saying
these
that.
questions. They are saying that. And that's when I know I've done my job. It's not because I'm some guru or know more than you do or have some special insight. It's not any of that. It's just that I had time to sit down and write it all down, where you can find it in one place.
And it's appreciated because your efforts they're making an impact. That's what it's all about. So thank you for doing that, sir.
My pleasure.
How does one man do all of the many things that you do all at once, it feels like? Yeah, I know some of your secrets, and you've taught me a lot, by the way, but let's talk about use of AI.
Okay.
I know some people are like, oh my God, it's AI. It's,
AI is the devil.
AI is the devil. Oh no. AI is a tool like a hammer. Can you do something bad with a hammer and smash somebody or, smash a windshield or something? Yeah. But could you also use a hammer to build a house? Also, yeah. So it's what you do with AI that is what makes it virtuous or not. And you're using it for good. So thanks.
Right. We can't let the bad guys win. Not with something that is this powerful and has this much upside. And because we're conditioned to see the future through dystopian lenses, we think of everything is, if you ask 10 people to tell you 10 bad things about AI, they could easily. It's going to kill us. It's going to rule the world. It's going to do all this stuff. But if you ask those same people to give you 10 things that it's good for, they will struggle to do that. That's because what sells tickets, if you go see the movie Terminator or War of the Worlds, all of these Mad Max, anything about our future generally is portrayed in a dystopian light that the world's coming to an end. And what you don't realize is that you are speaking that into existence.
Yeah.
However,
let's not talk like that.
You're manifesting it. So, but Star Trek doesn't do that, right?
They want everybody to, live long and prosper.
Yes, that's a good saying. So, the way I use AI is like having an assistant, having someone who can remember things for me. And so we created, this is before AI, our Bread Baker's Glossary of Terms, which has everything you can think of from auto lease to a biga, what these words mean with definitions.
I remember that. It was a lot of work. One person was working on it tirelessly to make that glossary that, not that many people looked at, right?
That's right. But so now what I'm able to do is to either I can expand on those definitions, find connections between those definitions, between and auto lease and the word extensibility, and then create something that people will better understand how those two interact with each other. And when you have as much going on as I do, it's not saying I couldn't do it, but why do it?
Right.
In fact, it's like, why would I write using a quill pen when I've got a typewriter with voice mode?
Exactly.
So I want to get it in front of more people. And the best way I knew how to do that was to make these little slates that pop up every day and says, the word of the day is extensibility. And give a little definition, and then it's gone. I don't have an art department. I don't have someone who can write in calligraphy or a studio that can record the sound. And I have this information that I want to put in front of people that is good information. How can I best do that with my limited resources? AI allows me to do that. So it's not the messenger, it's the message. I use a program called Gamma, which creates websites and presentations and all of that. Yeah. For our challenge, because we plan our year out, I can take March and say, these are the recipes from my blog that I'd like to include in this presentation. Here are the connections between cultures that I'd like to see made, and all that. Put it together for me. It'll print out a list of stuff that I have to go through and make sure that it's exactly what I'm looking for, and then it'll format it so that I can present it.
Yeah.
That would take 4 or 5 people a week to do, and we can get it done in no time. We're not saying, look at us, how beautiful is this presentation because we're so good. We're saying, March, you're going to learn about this, and we can teach you about that.
Yeah, cut out the fat.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. The group is not taking credit for work that we aren't doing.
Right.
And so would it be better to not, because, well, I don't believe in AI. I think AI is bad and this, that, and the other. But me not using it, me not using the hammer is not going to make other people not use the hammer. If you come to me and say you want a house built, and I tell you how much it'll take to build it, and we do things the old-fashioned way at my company, we build beautiful houses and we use shoes to knock the nails in. And another guy comes up and he says, I can build a house. We use nail guns.
Yep.
So we can get it done a lot faster, a lot more efficiently, with a lot less waste. Do you say that's bad because it's no longer, but AI is going to take away all the jobs?
No. It's making jobs. It's creating jobs.
It's creating jobs. It is. And it's creating, it's unfortunate if you don't know how to use it, but it's free. It's in your pocket. There are different things that it's going to bring to the world and different things it's going to take away. It'll never bake a loaf of bread.
No, it will not.
It's never going to do that.
Well, something you taught me to do, which has been very helpful in my productivity, is to present AI, whoever you're using, if it's ChatGPT or if it's Claude or one of the other ones, Gemini, you present it with your idea and then have it ask you questions about the idea. And what ends up happening is you end up writing it yourself because you're answering all the questions, but it's helping you organize your thoughts in a way that makes sense, that would be easier to read, and it takes what you give it and just organizes it and makes it pretty and makes it readable. And that's all it does. I mean, I could do that. I could write 5 drafts of the same article, or I could tell AI what I'm trying to do, have it ask me some questions to clarify so that it understands what I'm trying to do more fully. Then it just literally reorganizes the sentences so they make the most sense and say what I'm trying to say.
Right.
in an
Don't
elegant
forget
way.
to like and subscribe so you can get more content from me,
Your
Chef
art.
Dave Palmer,
It's your
Chef
word.
My Life
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, it
Other
is
content
absolutely. It's like
from Chef Dave
you know,
Palmer.
does it make
That's
a
me.
change here or there? It's like
Hit that
for
bell.
clarity. Yeah, sure it does, but it's not making anything up.
Spell check does
It's not-
that.
Yeah,
Spell check. Nobody has a
absolutely.
problem with spell checker. Are you
It's
cheating?
not telling. It's not like making up a story. It's not making anything up. It's taking
No.
my words and organizing them, and just making me more efficient. And boy, am I glad when
That's
those
right.
articles are done, right?
Yes.
Because how many hours did we spend before AI? We might hand it to each other. Like I might write something. I'm like, oh, so I'll send this to Henry, and he'll see what's wrong with it. And then you do the same thing with me. And then you have Cheryl and some others that will proofread your work.
Yeah.
With AI, we don't necessarily have to do that. We're really checking ourselves more than we're checking facts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we all see these commercials on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else that says, I wrote a book in 15 minutes. You could
No,
write a
yeah,
book
come
in
on.
15 minutes. Well, try it. Because, first of all,
No.
AI doesn't know what's in your heart. It doesn't know what you're trying to say or your communication.
Unless you tell it.
Unless you tell it. You know, there are so many little things you can do. People think that it's going to make your life easier.
Yeah.
And it's the opposite of that is true.
No, it actually sort of makes you work more efficiently.
That's it. It makes you work more efficiently and you get to see the things that you never thought you could get done. For people
Yeah.
who don't have any artistic capacity, who don't have a Hollywood studio contract, who just want to
Yeah.
communicate something in 30 seconds.
Mm.
Here's what I'd like to say. Here's how I'd say it. And AI will come up and say, well, Henry, you know, that sounds good, but maybe what if we did it this way? And I go, yeah, that sounds all right, but I don't like it that way. Why don't we do it this way?
Right.
Okay. And we work on it together. So you're not cheating, but you're never going to convince all people of that.
That's true. Well, you know, you bring up a good point, actually, because let's say I say something like you said, you know, I want to say this. And then AI says, okay, so you're saying this. And they say it. And they're like, no, that's not really what I mean. So you correct the AI to do what you want it to do because it works for you. It's not the other way around, you know?
And that's the thing. It is an employee.
Yes.
It is a tool. And
Well, yeah, you pay it.
Well, yeah, you pay it. You pay that $20 a month. But
Right.
it is not an oracle that's going to give you all of the answers. If you're using it that way, you're cheating yourself. That's the low-hanging fruit.
100%.
For my purposes, it'll never bake a loaf of bread. It's never tasted a loaf of bread.
Right.
But it can give me the nutrition facts of bread that I want to make based on the ingredients, and I can't do those calculations.
Isn't that nice? You don't have to contact a food scientist to figure out what the caloric intake of a loaf of bread is.
That's right. And if I slice it in 7 slices instead of 9, now what is it per serving?
I mean, yeah, exactly.
A calculator that does that, calculator's not cheating. This is the same.
Keep using AI for good, brother. You're doing a great work.
You. We can't let the bad guys win.
No. Not when there's bread to bake.
Not when there's bread to bake.
All right, my friend. We could talk about bread all day, and I know we can't. So thank you for joining me for this very first episode of the Chef My Life podcast. You can find some of Henry's recipes on chefmylife.com. He is a contributor. I look forward to seeing you also join the Baking Great Bread at Home Facebook group should you be interested in baking great bread at home. We'll help you. For those that are interested in sourdough, don't forget to check out Sourdough for the Rest of Us. This man has a lot to offer. It's hard to list it all at once.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Catch you later.
Thanks, Dave.
See you, Henry.
Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get more content from me, Chef Dave Palmer, and Chef My Life podcast.